Hello everyone, this is Varun from the Indian Geek Society, and today I'll be giving you my review of Marvel's Luke Cage Season 2. So I'd like to begin this review by saying that I was not much excited for Season 2 because of how underwhelming the Season 1 finale of Luke Cage was. But since I have not missed out any of the other Marvel Netflix TV series, so I decided to give this a watch, and trust me, I was not at all disappointed by how this season turned out. I had very low expectation and this show easily surpassed all my expectations and was in fact so good that I'll probably compare it with Daredevil and Punisher, which I think are the best Marvel TV series ever. So in this review, I will be dividing the video into two parts. First talking about all the good stuff that I liked this season, and then I'll be talking about all the bad stuff that I didn't like much. So I will begin talking about all the good stuff in this season by first talking about how good the villains were in this season. Seriously, when Cottonmouth died midway through season 1 of Luke Cage, I thought that there won't be a better villain than that. And the reason for that was because Diamondback, or Willis Stryker, who was the antagonist in the second half of the season, was really laughably bad. He had so cringy and corny dialogues that, trust me, I didn't think that this series would ever get a better villain than Cottonmouth. But seriously, in season 2 we get not one but two really great villains. One is Mariah Dillard, who we saw in the first season, who was the sister of Colonel Cottonmouth Stokes, and the second one is Bushmaster, who is a native of Jamaica and has come to Harlem looking for revenge. As the season progresses, we come to know more about his backstory, and trust me, they made him so vulnerable as well as so interesting that there were moments where I was almost siding up with Bushmaster because of how valid and believable his backstory was. Even Mariah Dillard was so much improved upon from the first season. I didn't think she would be this good, but really they made her really formidable, and the actress Alfie Woodard did a really good job in bringing the emotions out for this character. Also, the side character Shades, who was played by Theo Rossi, was really sidelined in the first season, but in this season he finally gets a moment to shine, and trust me, he does a wonderful job. He has a really good and emotional arc which I did not expect, and he was developed a lot more in this season, which was a really good thing because I really liked his character this time around. Now the second thing which was great about this season was its soundtrack. Seriously, Luke Cage has got a really good soundtrack. Even season 1 had a really good soundtrack. And in this season, just like season 1, they had a new singer in each episode who used to sing a famous song of their own which matched the theme of the given episode. This also became a bit of an issue, but I'll talk about it later when I'm talking about all the bad stuff of this season. Moving on, I'd like to talk about the action in season 2, which has been vastly improved upon since season 1. This time around, whenever Luke Cage breaks a wall, it doesn't look like he's punching through cardboard or thermocol or plastic. They have improved the VFX and the overall fight choreography so much that you can see the impact that his punches make each time he punches someone or hits someone or punches a wall or an object, or each time he bends a gun or does some other feat with his powers. In fact, the actor for Bushmaster, Mustafa Shakir, also learned capoeira, which is a Brazilian martial art which his character does in many of his fight scenes. And trust me, it looks very beautiful on screen. The fights look really well choreographed and were very fluidic and acrobatic in nature. Also, Iron Fist is better than ever when he has a guest appearance in one episode of this season. His fight looks so much better this time than it did in his own season or in Defenders season 1, and trust me, if they go in this direction, then seriously I think Iron Fist season 2 will have really good fight scenes. Now I would like to talk about the Heroes for Hire episode, which was episode 10 in this season. So this episode was mostly a standalone sort of episode, but it was really great as it gave us a look of what a Heroes for Hire TV series could be like. Trust me, after watching that episode, I really want Marvel to make a Heroes for Hire TV series with both Luke Cage and Iron Fist, because their character interactions with each other was so fun. The way they both fight together and the way they bring out humor each time they interact with each other was really fun. This episode was one of the most entertaining episodes throughout the season. I think everyone who saw this season liked this particular episode a lot. Now I would like to talk about the shocking ending which this season had. So yes, from what they showed at the end of this season, they are actually setting up Luke to be somewhat of a villain or more of a negative character for the next season. So in the end of this season, Luke becomes the owner of Harlem's Paradise, which is a nightclub in Harlem and also the throne of Harlem's underworld. He gets this property from Mariah Dillard, who gives it to him through a will before dying in the last episode. The main reason behind this is because she believed that power corrupts people and it can corrupt even Luke Cage. This has been a central theme of the show, that how can you destroy something that is indestructible? The answer is by destroying that thing from inside. And this is where the season ends. We see Luke standing like a villain over the top of Harlem's paradise and ignoring all his friends and loved ones like Misty Knight and Claire Temple. Speaking about them, I'd also like to talk about the side characters in this season. They improved the side characters a lot from what they were in season 1. Misty Knight gets a really wonderful arc, and she finally gets her robotic arm from Rand Industries, unlike Stark Industries from comics. She also gets a couple of really good fight scenes where she gets to use her robotic arm in its full glory. And those scenes are really good, especially one particular scene where she fights alongside Luke in a warehouse. They also introduce Mariah Dillard's daughter Tilda, but she was not much interesting, and I'll talk a bit about her later when I talk about the drawbacks of this season. So overall, I'd like to say that this season was influenced a lot from Godfather, just like the showrunner Chio Coker was saying in one of his interviews, and also how the different crime families of New York are now all competing for the throne of Harlem for their own reasons. So you can say that this show was a bit like Marvel's own version of Godfather and a bit of Game of Thrones, as it dealt with the power struggle for becoming Harlem's king or queen. Now I would like to talk about all the bad stuff that this season had. So as I said before, this season, just like last season, had famous singers appearing in each episode to sing songs which resonated the theme of that particular episode. While this was a good thing, it also became a bit of a drawback because in each episode they used to spend about 4 to 5 minutes in just showing those singers singing. And while I know that those singers are famous and are making their guest appearance on this show, I think it would have been better if they just used the song and not actually showed the singer's face, because those 4 to 5 minutes of screen time could have been used somewhere else. The next issue that I had with this season was pacing. Yes, pacing has been a problem with every single Marvel Netflix season up till now. So just like all the other TV series, Luke Cage suffered from pacing issues as well. I would say that this 13 episode season barely had 9 to 10 episodes of actual story, and the other episodes were usually just standalone episodes or used to delve into the past of side characters which didn't matter much into the overall plot, but still they were interesting nonetheless. But yeah, at times the show did feel slow and I was losing a bit of interest here and there, but then each episode usually ended at a high note and it kept me engaged enough to watch the next episode. Some of the other side characters were also a drawback for this season. So as I said before, in this season they improved Misty Knight a lot, but on the other hand, Claire, who was a really good highlight of season 1 of Luke Cage, was of not much use in this season. She barely had any role in this season and barely appeared for just 4 episodes maybe, or maximum 5. After that she just goes away and doesn't come out throughout the entire season. I was expecting her to come at the end, but they just mention her name and she's not there even at the end. Maybe the actress had some work of her own and that's why she wasn't able to come for the shooting or whatever, or maybe they didn't even write a part, but that was just lazy writing in my opinion. They should have included somewhat of an end to a really good arc that they started with her in the beginning but just left it hanging throughout the season. Another thing that I didn't like was Luke's father, who was played by late Greg E. Cathy. He did a really good job, but I think his character was really underutilized. I would have liked to see more of his character, and even though they did have an emotional father-son arc, they just kind of gave up on it after 8 or 9 episodes. It is a shame since I wanted to see more of Luke's father, but I guess they didn't know where to take that arc, so they just ended it over there. Also, Mariah Dillard's daughter Tilda Johnson was having a very shaky arc, which the writers clearly they didn't have a direction on where to take. She seemed good at first, but then became a bit of a negative character, but then turned good again, and then did some bad things toward end, and once again became sort of an antagonist by the end. And they did tease her to be some sort of villain for the next season, but I don't know what they'll do with her. maybe they might surprise us with her in season 3 where they redeem her just like they did with Mariah Dillard this season. Overall, I think this season ends at a really good point where they now have many different directions to go on and take the story. I would like to see Luke Cage pop up as somewhat of a more negative, more darker anti-hero sort of character in Iron Fist season 2 so that he can contrast with the bright and more carefree outlook of Danny Rand. And moving on from there, I would love to see a Heroes for Hire season after what they teased us with one episode in this season. I'm totally game for it and I would love to see that. So thank you for watching this video. Please don't forget to leave a like and please write a comment about what you think Luke Cage season 2, and also don't forget to subscribe. Thank you.